G'day everyone, welcome to week 10 of my value betting journey from 1k to 2k. A very quiet week with the international break on, so I did take most of the week off, so not many trades placed. But yeah, here's how I went. So as you guys can see, I didn't really place many trades, about 63 in total, but they were actually quite valuable trades because I went up in profit from about 339 last week to 520 profit this week. Biggest news is I have moved above my closing EV, so now I'm overperforming rather than underperforming. So yeah, it's taken a bit of time to get back above this closing EV line, but yeah, as I said before, you just have to believe in the process, make sure you're doing all your things right, like check your strategy and stuff, but it was all looking fine, and I knew that over time it would rise above that closing EV. So this week, guys, I want to take you through the analytics page and also the big data tool, and just have a look and see how I'm performing with each of my bookies in terms of average closing edge and closing EV, which are kind of our most two important statistics, and compare that against my profits. So I'll start with Bettor as an example. So you guys have probably all used this before, but if you haven't, this is really useful stuff to do. So looking at Bettor, odds 1 to 100, and all the rest should stay the same. So I'm just looking at my whole time with Trademate. We have a 1.7% average closing edge, so not that great. My closing EV is $61. And my average ROI is 4.5%, and I've profited $162. So even though I've done well, I've profited a decent amount. My average closing edge is a lot lower than my overall average closing edge. So this is something I can look into a bit more. So guys, instead of going through each analytics for each bookie, it's probably just quicker if I do it this way. So for the rest of my data, these were some of the most important things. So Bet365 and Coolbet, I guess the most important thing or biggest takeaway is that I'm overperforming with them. Over time, my profits will obviously move closer to the closing EV. The other takeaway with Betfair too, which has the highest closing edge out of all my bookies. Although my profits are down, my closing EV is up. So like always, as I say, it will move closer to that closing EV. So I think the most important thing to look at is this one here. So let's take a look at why my average closing edge is only 1.7% compared to the rest of my closing edges, which are a little bit bigger. So the best way to take a further look at how we can figure out why this number is this is actually I'm going to take a look at the big data tool. So as you guys probably know, the big data tool is essentially a place where you can go to look at all the data of all the Trademate users and just see where you might be winning and losing or how other people are going. It just gives you a better idea on how you can improve if need be. So I'm just filling out the preset. So we'll go from the beginning of September, because that's roughly when I started, about 10 weeks. And yeah, that'll do. Okay, so the first thing you probably pick up on is that the average closing edge for Bettor over the past 10 weeks is a lot bigger than what mine is. So people aren't having the same problem as me. Another thing I'd like to look at is that their average time before kickoff is lower than mine. I know mine was at 5, but it is lower. So I guess if you're thinking of an area where I can improve, I could potentially change my preset, which is 0 to 8 hours, to something a bit less. I could also set my Bettor presets to a high minimum edge. So at the moment it's 1.5 minimum edge, so I could maybe up that to 2 or something like that. But overall, my big data search was only based on 3,247 trades, so it's not a large population. So I think this is a really useful thing that all of us can do, and it just helps if you want to get an idea of how you can improve your strategy. So even though I am profiting with Bettor, my investigation showed that my strategy can improve. So like I said earlier, I could make a few adjustments and edit my presets, but in general, I think 99% of the time, Sport X or Bookie Y or Bet Type Z not being profitable is explained by random variance. There are so many people that cut a bookie or a sport after 100 trades because they were not profitable. whilst running at some crazy numbers like a negative 15% ROI and still having a positive closing edge. That's the main thing. You have to look at that positive closing edge. If that is still positive and going in the right direction, then your strategy is successful. It's a common trap that people fall into, to quit after 100 trades, like I said, because a bookie might not be profitable or something like that. So making a change based on only 10 weeks worth of data and such a small sample size, just over 3,000 trades, would be a mistake. So if you're noticing something isn't working in your value betting journey, do take a look at the analytics and big data tool to see if there's anything you can find interesting. But give it time and only make changes if it's obvious. Ideally, I think you should split test the big data over multiple periods and look at whether the closing edge and ROI is consistently positive or negative, or whether it varies from period to period. Only if there's a consistent trend over a big sample size of trades, both in the big data and in your personal results, should you consider doing something like skipping a particular sport, or skipping a particular bet type like an Asian handicap, or cancelling a bookie. Here are my trades of the week, guys. Nothing too special going on here. I guess the biggest win was actually reasonably big, so that's just over $30 US. That's all for week 10, guys. Thank you for watching once again. Luckily, the international break is now over, so the EPL and all the big leagues are back. Biggest game is Manchester City versus Chelsea on Saturday evening, so that'll be a really good test to see where Chelsea is at. But yeah, see you next week.